I'm Dr. Patrick Andersen of Madison Maximize Living. If you're like many people, you can get on a health kick with all the best intentions and it lasts for a few days or a week maybe, and then it completely falls apart. You're left frustrated and no better off. Join Global Hall of Fame business coach Ian McFarlane and myself as we help you put tried and true business and success principles to work, not only for success in life, but for your best health. Coming up next on Maximize Living. Welcome to Maximize Living. I'm Dr. Patrick Andersen. Our theme for today is putting successful business practice to work for your best life and your best health. Our guest is Ian McFarlane today. Ian is a business coach, and in 1978 he moved his family from Australia to the United States. So I think we'll enjoy your accent. I always like listening to that. And Ian has had a long business career. He's been a president of 4 companies, one in New York, one in Knoxville, one in Minneapolis, and in Madison. He has been a business coach for over 12 years, and he is an author and a radio show host. So in 2012, Ian was elected to the Global Hall of Fame for business coaches. So Ian, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, Dr. Pat.
Ian, in preparing for the interview, we talked about some things your parents had said to you as you were growing up that later on you realized how important it was to you.
Yeah, it became a fundamental principle of my life, although I did not realize it until I've reflected later in life. Anytime that I played a lot of sport, anytime I competed in sport or came home with exam results, or I'd been to the Scouts and I was going to get new badges, they'd always say to me, "Did you do your best?" Now, hopefully I said yes, but it was the next question, which was the critical one. They said, "What are you going to do differently next time to do better?" Boy, and that's become a fundamental principle for me for my life.
That's just awesome. If we all adapted that, it would really work well. Ian, life is pretty busy and so many people have a hard time balancing everything. What kind of things would you say to them about how to put these business principles to work?
Number one is going to be attitude. I believe attitude overrides almost anything, either in the business world or in the personal world. So it's a matter of having the right attitude and that positive attitude. It'll make a difference.
And you mentioned a title called The Line of Choice. Would you like to go through that for us?
Yeah, again, to me it's a fundamental principle which applies in business but also in personal life. We have the line of choice here, and this line is what I call the line of choice, because above the line you have the positive aspects of you take ownership as to who you are, you have to be accountable for what you're going to do, and you need to be responsible. That's what I call above the line. Below the line, you can see it's blame, excuses, and denial. And the difference is you can see some examples on the right-hand side, how I can tell the difference when I'm working with people is whether they're above that line, their positive attitude, it comes down to, are they winners? Do they talk about winning? Are they victors? Do they carry themselves well? The next thing, they have a focus. Their focus is results they're going to achieve. They are leaders, and by leaders I mean they influence people. People look to them. They have a positive attitude, that word attitude. They have what I call the concept present future. They're always saying, where am I going? What am I going to achieve? And they tend to say yes. Now, the opposite, below the line, is people that they tend to feel they're victim, they're losers. They're always giving reasons why it didn't happen. They tend to be followers. They have negative attitudes. They tend to always be talking about the past, and they frequently say no. 2 distinct attitude differences. And so in my coaching or in personal life, I let people see this concept. Every individual, I have the choice as to whether I'm going to be here, but I also have a choice if I'm going to let myself fall down there.
And every single topic as well, right, in your life, every area of your life?
Every area of my life, because everything I do, I have to make a choice about something.
Yes.
So it's a matter of applying this method of choosing the positive aspects, the positive attitude, versus these. In fact, if you look at on the left, it says OAR, or. That's where you control your life.
Yeah.
And down below it says bed, B-E-D. That means you're lying in your bed. So I use those two to demonstrate the significant difference.
Oh, that's an awesome slide. So people tend to bounce above and below that line, would you say?
Absolutely. Hopefully you can stay above. Every person at some stage, something traumatic, they could fall below the line. The real issue is, do they understand they fell below the line to turn it around and move back above the line? So yes, even people who are the ultimate performers still go below the line in some circumstances, but they understand they have to move back up. They have that choice to make the difference.
Awesome. We'll be back more with Maximize Living and Ian McFarlane in just a moment.
Have your questions for Dr. Pat answered on an episode of Maximize Living. Email Dr. Pat at cw57.tv.
We're back with Maximize Living and our special guest, Ian McFarlane, a business coach who's the Global Hall of Fame recipient in 2012. Ian, we're talking about success principles, and in everyone's life these days, there's so many things competing for their success. They have a hard time keeping up with everything. Do you have some suggestions on how we can manage that better?
Well, Dr. Pat, I think you've picked up on something I find with almost all the clients I work with. They're saying, I don't have enough time. It applies there. I'm sure at home, your family, your wife says, I don't have time to do it. Or kids, where do I find time? It is a major issue. Now, what I have here, I have developed this, it's a tool. And it's a tool where it allows us to control all the way down to being disciplined about what we do daily. So briefly what this tool is, that I work with my clients, I work with myself, I suggest anyone, 2 to 3 years from now, what do you want strategically? What type of life do you want? What successes do you want at work? What do you want your kids to be doing over the next 2 to 3 years? So that's what I call the strategic. Then after that, I say 1 year. Every year you have to sit down and operations. So what do I actually have to do? What activities do I have to do to be on track through 1 year?
So breaking it down or
breaking it down. And the next breakdown comes to 90 days. So every 90 days, the word results, I've used that already. What are the results I'm getting in 90 days to make sure they're on track to where I want to be at 12 months? The next thing is break it down to monthly. I call it financials because I believe everyone should look at their financials at least monthly, business, personal, or whatever. Stock market, you might do it a lot more frequently,
yeah.
but overall financials, where are you? And then the next one is weekly, the plans. What am I going to get done in the next week? But then it comes down to the critical success, daily discipline. Daily discipline says every night I say, what did I get done today? What did I miss out on? If I missed out, what am I going to do about it?
And how long does that process take typically?
10 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes. And then I will that night say exactly what do I have to do tomorrow. And when I get up in the morning, I go back over it so it's fresh in my mind.
And there's also a value there because whatever you fall asleep thinking about, your mind is working on it.
That's exactly what I do it the night before as well as fresh myself. It's a standard Franklin planner, but in it, it breaks it down in that sense from 12 months down to daily. Every day I open it and review what do I have to get done today. Now it helps me control where my energy needs to go. What are the critical things I have to achieve that day? As you said earlier, if you break it down to daily and then it builds up, that's how you can control your time.
Do you have to not do some things you may want to do, I suppose? Prioritize.
I go back to the line of choice. When I look at that every day, I have a choice to say, yes, are those still the right things to do? So yes, I do have a choice. And if I see it's too much, I have to make a choice. What am I not going to do today, even though I thought I should do it? And if I don't do it today, what's the consequence?
You know, that sounds like a really satisfying, self-directing life where you're in charge. And that really reduces stress when you're making the decisions.
I believe you do reduce stress if you know what you need to do, because you don't worry about the things you don't do if they weren't in your plan.
You know, for some people, discipline is a 4-letter word. You know, what other tools can you think of offhand that might be helpful in helping people discipline their lives better and really look at it as a treat rather than a job.
Right. Well, one tool is find that person who you can say, I want you to ask me, what did I get done today? And give me a little pride in the fact I achieved things. And if I didn't do something, just let me know. I have to watch that next time and get it done. Find someone that can check you.
So that could be a family member,
could be
a
family
friend.
member.
And you know, I've noticed in coaching, anyone who has a coach always does better.
Yeah.
So,
and I believe that's what the coach's role is. It's not to tell them what to do, it's to make sure they do things the way that's going to help them do their job better. But I will sometimes have to talk to a client on the basis that they didn't get it done. What are you going to do about it?
Awesome. We'll be back with more on Maximize Living with Ian McFarlane. Stay tuned.
Have your questions for Dr. Pat answered on an episode of Maximize Living. Email Dr. Pat at cw57.tv.
Welcome back to Maximize Living. We're here with Ian McFarlane, a Global Hall of Fame business coach. And Ian, this has been wonderful so far. I learned an awful lot. What is one key that you can give to people to help them be more successful in their career, whether it's business or home life or health life?
Yeah, and at this stage of my life, I've been doing reflecting over just the last few years because I want to maximize my life for the time that I'm going to continue to be performing. And I came up with a concept which I find is very powerful. It's a attitude. It's a concept of attitude, and it's what I call the past present to the present future. And to be positive, to achieve results, it's important to think into the future. However, the past present is still important. I say that's 20% of where I spend my time and
history
energy.
Seems to matter because we can repeat ourselves.
It's like my own reflections, right? That's that. However, 80% of my thinking, my energy, my work is got to be in the present future. Where do I want to get to in the time that I have in my life? What type of life? What sort of retirement? I'm never retiring, but I may have to do some sort of retirement. How much more golf do I want to play to achieve things? So the present future is, I believe, a critical thing to be successful. Where am I trying to get to in whatever time period I set in the future?
It seems like some people will talk present past quite a bit, and I'm not so sure that's as interesting.
Well, it's the easy way. It is the easy way out, simply to talk about what's in the past. And as we mentioned earlier, on the above the line, below the line, people that are always talking about the past, always talking about reasons, they tend to be below the line. It's the people who fewer of them, I believe, are the ones that are really saying, where do I want to get to? What results? What do I have to do? Even though it's going to take more energy, it's going to be harder to do it.
And it just sounds magnetic to pull you forward.
That's a good way to look at it.
Future thinking.
Yes.
Do you have any other ideas about how we can be better at being future focused?
Yeah, I believe that you need to step back and just put some time into saying, with my life, in my family, where do I want to be? I have to document it. Don't just talk, document some good goals. Same in business. What are the goals for the business? So goal setting is definitely, I believe, important to be working in the future.
Awesome. It's fascinating knowing where you want to go makes all the difference, drawing you forward. And I can think of people who spent a lot of time just talking about the past, almost dwelling on the past. But I think they're causing they're limiting themselves in their own system.
That's a good way to put it. It's a limitation, whereas to do present future, it's a growth.
And actually, I think it's probably more fun to think about the future because nothing bad has happened in the future. You know, you think you passed, oh, I did that wrong, I did that wrong. In the future is probably more fun to think about than maybe your mistakes of the past.
It is, but it's also more difficult because you're dealing with the unknown. And to deal with the unknown, you have to have a certain level of personal freedom to be willing to try things.
Awesome. And thank you very much for watching Maximize Living.
Have your questions for Dr. Pat answered on an episode of Maximize Living. Email Dr. Pat at cw57.tv.
Welcome back to Maximize Living and our special guest, Ian McFarlane. Ian, we've talked about results a little bit and how important it is to measure it. You have some tools that help us measure those results better.
Yeah, sure, Dr. Pat. The first thing is I believe you always have to measure. If you don't measure, you don't know how well you're doing. So if you do want to grow, if you do want to do better, if you want to make things happen, keep measuring.
And you're literally making this a science. When you measure something, you can
That's
make it
my
science.
goal. And so in 1984, when I was president of a company in New York City, I was asked by the board, when I presented the financials, they said, but we want to know what it's going to look like at the end of a year. So I realized I had to go away from traditional historical financials and create a tool. I created this tool called VCAR, and I call it a process for results, and I have trademarked it, so I'm sort of proud of that. What it says is that, and if I talk initially in financial terms, when you compare what you had budgeted to do this month, were there any variances? That's what I'm looking for. If there's a variance, I have to say, what is the cause of that variance? By understanding the cause, I can then say, what action plans am I now going to take to correct it or to improve upon it? And when I have action plans, I say, who's going to make it happen in my organization? The accountability factor. And with that, I then say, okay, now that we're going to do, things weren't on track, we have to do some things differently. The original 12-month budget is not effective. We reforecast, so we say, what will the year look like now? And if that's satisfactory, we do it, and we do this every single month. So in the financial area, which I, again, back in 1984. However, recently, in a lot of reflection, I said, this is really an analytical tool. It's not just financial.
Right.
I could apply this to many different aspects of life.
Including health goals, weight
Well,
loss.
that'd be a perfect one. If I said over the next 12 months I want to adjust my weight, I have stepping stones on how I get
I like
to
that term, by the way, adjust my weight. You know, diet doesn't sound very good, but I want to adjust my health. That's taking command.
And so if I'm off track, I've got to say what's caused. I didn't work out at the frequency I said. I'm eating too much. Then I can say, okay, what am I going to do about it? What action plans to correct that? And then I'm going to say, in this case, I am accountable. I'm going to make it happen. And then I'll relook at it and say, that is getting me back on track to achieve that end result.
Oh, excellent. As we finish up, any encouraging thoughts for our viewers?
Yes, the first thing is go back to that line of choice. I make the choices. And many times it's not easy, so I have to make tough choices, but I am responsible for that. I have to be the one to do the work. It may be hard and tough, but I have to make the choice. You're not going to do it for me.
Excellent. And you have some tools here that you use.
Yes. This first one is called the Maxwell Daily Reader. It's 365 pages and one page per day. And I read it every morning when I get up because it's a positive thought about living my life proactively.
And Ian, I understand you have a book coming out in September.
Yeah, and on reflection, I decided I needed to put it down for my family, for myself. So I am going to release the book, and I've called it The Power of I Am, So I Can. And I think it reflects the principles we talked about today.
Awesome. For Maximize Living, thank you for watching.
Have your questions for Dr. Pat answered on an episode of Maximize Living. Email Dr. Pat at cw57.tv.
Thank you for watching our show on engaging success principles for your best health. More than anything else, health is a choice. It's a choice of daily actions in how you eat, move, and think. One of the biggest choices is getting chiropractic care into your lifestyle. Quite frankly, no one gets through life unscathed. There are falls, strains, stresses, injuries, and the forces of gravity constantly working against our spines and other joints. These forces misalign our joints, interfere with our nerve system and our body's ability to function, heal, and be well. Don't wait years to do something about it. Come and see why so many people love chiropractic care. Call 608-833-1282 right now for a checkup. For Maximize Living, I'm Dr. Patrick Andersen. Until next week, live well and God bless.
Have your questions for Dr. Pat answered on an episode of Maximize Living. Email Dr. Pat at cw57.tv.